Hello again, everyone. We are Gaming by Gaslight, and welcome back to EU4 as Zoroastria. This is going to be an interesting episode because my audio decided to glitch out on me while I was recording because I let my hard drive run overflow or full something. Anyway, yeah, as I continue to lose the ability to speak, let's move on. Basically, we were at our war with Iraq. We are generally looking at things there. Wait, we were at war with Iraq, weren't we? Or we were preparing to go to war with Iraq again. No, we fought Iraq, didn't we? You know, I already forget because I only noticed the problem when I came back after recording, like, the next week or so's worth of videos, so... Oh boy. Bit off. But anyway, yeah, we're dealing with things. As I recall, the Ottomans are still a threat to us at this point, though... they won't be forever. We're also looking at... What was I wiggling my mouse down there about? I guess just about how... Eventually, we've got to get into India. That's a key thing here. The whole point of the series is unifying India. And we really won't get into India for a while yet. But we are securing our borders. We're forming alliances. We're getting a strong power block here. And the thing is, as scary as the Ottomans are right now, they're also pretty much the only real danger to us if they decide to go hostile. But overall, we're in a relatively good position because the Ottomans actually can only expand down through the Mamluks. And they tend to kind of stagnate once they've succeeded in doing that because they don't get any missions to expand into Africa. And, I mean, that won't necessarily stop them. They'll also probably try to take the Arabian Peninsula if we don't get down there first and kind of block them off, which is my plan, to be honest with you. My intention is fully to get down there eventually, but that's not our goal right now. Right now, we're just working on keeping things going. That's a pretty good ruler and reasonable heir and prince consort person. So, overall, pretty good. We've got good genetics going here, and I'm pretty sure I don't notice that this is a queen we've got right now, so... yeah, I will at some point end up being hilariously surprised by this, but hey, I mean, you can't always have kings. Sometimes you gotta have a queen in there, just to remind you that you can't always have your leader be a general or something like that. I mean, that's really the only functional difference between kings and queens. We also have some rebel problems. I mean, but we always have rebels. The good thing is, our national ideas do give us some lowered unrest later on down the line. That'll help us out. I believe, if we haven't yet, we're going to pick up religious ideas. No, we definitely have that, which also helps lower unrest, so that'll be another big boon to us. Which, in general, the more, like, negative unrest ideas you have, and the less unrest you have in general, the longer it takes to actually deal with rebels, and you can actually pretty much stop a lot of really bad problems to begin with. Also, as you can see here, we're kind of looking at the various cultures we have, and it occurs to me, because there's actually a lot of development in here, we're going to make this into, most of these cultures into accepted ones, just to really push forward and get us some more money later on. And we really take off later. It's going to be awesome. Like, Zoroastria, we've had a rough start, especially with the off-camera obliteration by that coalition. But we're gonna come back stronger than ever. That's the important thing. And we have our vassal on our side, which is good. Baristan. They are for once loyal, and they're gonna go on. Like, they are the strongest vassal I have ever had. Like, they have the money to have a whole bunch of forts and also an army that pretty much rivals mine, which is good because once I annex them, I will get that army, which is particularly important because we're going to end up suffering a lot of manpower loss. And this way, once we annex them, we'll get basically like 20,000 troops by the end of this for free, which is good. And just look at how we're doing right now. I do let things get away from me a bit, but we're in a position, in general, I think, if by at least the mid-1500s, if you have the money to start plopping down manufactories left and right, you're basically set for the rest of the game. Because when you have that kind of money, you are pretty safe. Also, as you can see here, Oirat is fighting Timurids. Everyone likes to beat up on the Timurids because, you know, it's kind of sad, really, because in real life, if I understand correctly, the Timurids were actually a reasonably powerful nation. In fact, I think, historically, they're also the ones who founded, like, the Mughal Empire. Mughal? However I pronounce that. Which dominated India all the way up until the British showed up, if I recall correctly. I actually don't know much about the Mughal Empire at all, just that they were pretty damn powerful, and I think what really formed them was the Timurids came into India, and they basically conquered the Indian Peninsula, or something to that general effect, but they lost their land back in Persia due to rebellion or separatists or something like that, which tends to happen, as you've seen in this series so far, also in this game. I mean, the Timurids almost always end up collapsing on themselves. They don't really ever form the Mughal Empire, though, which is kind of a shame, because I am told, much like the Qing dynasty over in China, which was formed by Manchuria, like, these were really important and influential moves that helped shape the future of, well, the world, really. I mean, or at least these local parts of the world, and I guess when you think about it, the ripple effects would change how the Europeans would act with those parts of the world when they actually got there. So, it's kind of a shame you never see them form just under ordinary circumstances, but then again, perhaps we could read into that as being an example of how chance in real life really has an effect on things. I mean, when you think about it, in history, and as especially just shown in EU4, especially when you are a player, and, you know, as soon as you unpause the game, you're dramatically changing just how history goes. I'm not even talking about what's actually going on anymore, am I? I'm just talking about history and cool stuff. But, I mean, that's one of the things I really like about EU4, is that even though it sometimes seems as the years go by and Paradox continues to update the game and, you know, add new features and stuff, a lot of those features, to some extent, seem to be designed explicitly to try railroading you into playing a quote-unquote historically accurate game, or, you know, at least to stop the kind of really cheesy player-controlled kind of behaviors where the player can go completely wild and out of control and stuff. I mean, just the idea of having that, being able to influence history, even in, like, sort of the kind of digital confines of a game. It's really fun, because I always pick up a little bit, especially since doing these Let's Plays, because people in the comments, they let me know stuff, they tell me little things that I didn't know about history, which, I mean, there's a lot I don't know. Like, I know a lot about, or I know a little about everything and a lot about nothing, really, is my tagline for just going through life, really. Which, I guess in a way is kind of, sort of, what you should endeavor towards, I would guess, just on the grounds that it's a good idea to try to learn a little about everything. And it's impossible to know a lot about everything. Just because there's just too much to learn. Too much indeed. Anyway, but I'm rambling on random things and have only like a semi-coherent message going there. Which basically just boils down to, I love playing in historical settings like this, and more importantly, being able to destroy those historical settings and reshape history in my image, or something like that. But anyway, getting back to this war here, we're doing pretty well. A bit wasteful, but that's because we do have some pretty big stacks in India here. And Delhi is going to be a thorn in my side for pretty much the rest of the game until I actually end up fighting them, because they keep guaranteeing anyone who lives in the general vicinity of the Timurids, which kind of annoys me because, I mean, spoiler alert for what's coming in the future, but Afghanistan breaks free from the corpse of the Timurids, and I don't know when, but I'm going to assume almost immediately Delhi decides to guarantee their independence, which is not a bad thing. It's just kind of annoying because you have to put up with this sort of stuff. I mean, when you just want a conquer and just enjoy watching the map slowly turn, in this case, purple. Yes. This event, I think, happens, like, or events similar to it just keep happening over the course of this episode, and I think the next episode, almost like the game itself is trying to cause me to waste my monarch points, and like a fool, I keep playing right into their hands. When in reality, that corruption hit probably wouldn't be that bad. And also, I'm about to let one of my infantry die here, and then I'm not going to even do anything to try and stop it. I'm just going to sit and watch them die. Because I actually, while recording this, I noticed this. Yeah, you see, I noticed it right there, and then I'm too lazy to do anything about it. And then immediately after that, there's a peace. I think I get one province out of this. I don't even... And I get... Well, yeah, I guess the Oirats, they took Kabul and a couple other why do I keep saying promises? Provinces! Ugh. This whole problem with me being unable to talk, it's gonna carry on for pretty much the rest of this recording session. I don't know why. But, it's just one of those things. I guess I'm just having one of those days. Just one of those days where your brain decides to melt and nothing you do seems to bring it back on track. But anyway, overall, the key thing is, in this sort of random, rambling episode that I've got going here so far, is we're doing well. We're building up our economy. In particular, I want to make sure that we get a textile manufactory in our capital there, because manufactories in 1650, we can get that. We could probably get global trade if I really pushed for it. Because I've seen images of people who, like, playing as Persia and just as other nations in this general vicinity have actually been able to, like, get global trade. And all you need for global trade, if I recall, is you have to be in control of the most valuable trade node in the world, I believe. I think that's about right. It tends to spawn over in this part of the world whenever I'm not playing here, and then over in Europe when I am playing over here. For instance, of course, I guess that's just probably evidence that I'm not doing something right with the whole trade game. Which, I mean, it is what it is. But what are we doing here? Instead of going after Baluchistan and Gujarat over there, we're a little worried about the Ottomans, as I guess if I understand what my mouse pointer was wobbling on over there. Also, as you might notice down there, we have Waleton? Like, I have no idea who that is. I think they are just some random African nation that has somehow exploded into Arabia somehow. I have no idea how that happened. I've never heard of them before. I don't recall seeing them, which is probably just a gross oversight on my part, because I'm pretty sure they have to be a real nation that exists ordinarily, because I have played an Ethiopia game down there. So clearly I just missed something. Also, we're gonna have rebel problems up here in Crimea for the... And the problem is, they're not even gonna be my rebels. They're gonna be someone else's rebels. I'm pretty sure of that. Yes. But anyway, our next plan is, before we go into India, we're gonna kind of secure our borders and try to move in, make some inroads into the Arabian Peninsula. I don't really care about this war over here, but I figured I would just take a quick look at it, see what's going on over there. And as you can see there, England actually got a personal union over Savoy. Though, now that I think about it, I never really went back to see if England actually managed to keep that personal union. But I don't really care, because we're not gonna be going over to that part of the world anyway, and it doesn't really affect us, so who cares what they're doing? As long as they stay the hell out of my land, then we will have no problem. But yes, basically, the key for the next little while is make sure we have a foothold in the Arabian Peninsula, specifically for the purpose of trying to eventually cut the Ottomans off. Because if I can cut them off from growing, or at least make it difficult for them to grow, then I make it easier for myself. Of course, a thing we're always going to have to be concerned about, especially once we get into India, is, as you've probably noticed, there are a lot of big alliances over in India. And the plus side is, there's like a hodgepodge different religions down there, so none of them are really going to care about me personally, for the most part, as long as there isn't just like one super blob that takes over down there, which sometimes happens. But so far in this game, it seems like the balance of power is pretty even. So with any luck, we won't have to deal with a super coalition. But at some point, as we're expanding down there, we're probably going to have to worry about some things. And those things, as we placate our vassal over here a couple of times just to make absolutely sure we don't have to worry about them. Well, I assure you, we will have to worry about Tabaristan again. Multiple times, in fact. But anyway, the key thing is, we gotta be careful, because no matter how big we get, especially because Ming decided to rival me, or have they rivaled me? They must have, because they're building a spy network in my nation. But we always have to worry about the Ottomans. Oh yeah, here's where I noticed that they're friendly towards me now. So I was really concerned about that for a while. They have a diplomatic ruler, they've decided they don't want my land, which, frankly, I cannot tell you how happy that makes me. Because I really, really don't want to have to deal with the Ottomans, because they are scary people. And they're also bigger than me in every possible way, so that's also something to be concerned about. And then Hejaz is coming up over there, so but I'm not worried about them. The Ottomans and, like, the power block down in India is really the only thing that concerns me. We might have to deal with Ming at some point, especially because I'm pretty sure they start playing a pretty aggressive political game in India. And by that, I just mean that they kind of help break up some stuff that will kind of give them... They have political interest in India, I guess is what I'm really saying. And we'll have to fight that at some point. Of course, we could get really lucky and the Ming will just explode on themselves. I'm not counting on that, but it could happen. I mean, anything's possible, and who knows. Also, Tabaristan is doing stuff over there. I was actually hoping that they would go to the Isle of Hormuz, which is like hidden just off camera under that core construction. A note on the little sidebar thingy. But, nope, they're just willing to siege out stuff and generally not do what I want them to do, but that's life, really. I mean, just like if you have children. Sometimes your children end up not doing what you would have wanted them to do, and ending up being a giant disappointment to the entire family. Other times, that's not... I don't have children, by the way. I'm far too young for that. Probably. Probably not, but I am fatherless. Fatherless? No, childless. Fatherless is the other thing. Anyway. Yes, so this war is also going to drag on for a while, mostly due to... I blame the incompetence of Tabaristan for not heading off the whole situation over in Hormuz over there. But I guess sometimes you just gotta deal with these things, and I skipped that button. I should have... if I wasn't recording this while watching back the footage, I would have paused right there to figure out what I skipped. But I think what that message said was that Crimean separatists from Kazan crossed the border, and they're just going to be causing me some headaches for the foreseeable future. I never picked this whole giving the prince consort's buddy a job. I suppose I should at some points, but... Or maybe that was from Genoa. No, now that I think about it, I don't know. Now, it must have... That could have been from Genoa, now that I think about it, because they would have had to wander in there from somewhere. Anyway, the key thing, though, is that we're doing well. Progress is moving in a general forward direction. And barring any unforeseen accidents, it's just going to be winning from here on out. Also, I think I'm going to eventually try to vassalize Yemen down there. My logic for doing that, or at least depending on how aggressive I decide to expand down into the Arabian Peninsula, because I'm not necessarily sure if I want to hold all that land for myself, and letting a vassal hold it would be just as good, probably. And I could just enable scutage or something and let them sit out of my wars and such, and that way the Ottomans will leave me alone unless they attack said vassal directly, which may or may not happen. I mean, I don't know. I might. But then again, I also have plans for having temporary vassals in India in order to help deal with the fact that I'm probably going to be attempting to take massive amounts of overextension worth of, or like provinces that'll create massive amounts of overextension as we go along. And having a vassal to help break that up a little bit would be a good thing. Of course, what would be even better would be if overextension scaled based on your relative size, so that the bigger you got, the more you could eat before getting quote-unquote overextended. Yes. Anyway, yeah, so here we are going to build our ever so important textile manufactory, which is also, turns out, our capital, very valuable for it, which is good. And by having that there early, we're basically making sure, I mean, I say making sure, but I don't really mean making sure, because to be honest with you, that's not how manufactories work. In fact, I'm not convinced manufactories actually, I'm not sure what weight is behind them, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know what really determines who gets it. Because if multiple people, in fact, I'm not sure about that. I've read up on it, and I think it's entirely random. I'm not sure. But then again, I've heard people say that there are weights behind these things. But I've heard other people also say there's not. And since I've never been bothered to actually get a text editor and bother parsing through the whole institution's weight, like what determines them, I don't know if there's some like hidden weight modifiers that'll determine what province is more likely, or what nation is more likely to spawn an institution. Or I guess, yeah, specifically what province is more likely to spawn an institution if it can spawn an institution. For instance, if with colonization or colonialism, if we qualified and Castile qualified and Portugal qualified, what determines which one of us gets it? That's my question. I think it's random, but I've heard there are weights there, so I could be off. I always just assumed, like with things like manufactories, there's whoever had the most development would get it. But I have heard other evidence that indicates that may not be correct, so who knows? Anyway, we're going to try to get the head jazz out of here, mostly because I don't want to deal with them, and I'm kind of concerned that one fort will get sieged back. But, not that worried about it, or at least I shouldn't have been, in retrospect, because this war's going to drag on for a while anyway, so we really don't have a lot to do. Basically, the rest of this war is just going to turn out to be me. Also, Poland is fighting Muscovy there. But most of the rest of this war is just going to be me. Well, I'm going to have to take out Oman over there and make sure I get some land, because I want to get that little strait crossing over there to make sure it is completely impossible that I ever get cut off again, and so that I have alternate routes into the Arabian Peninsula if I need to. Particularly so I can attack from multiple directions. Also, because Tabaristan didn't do its job and let Hormuz get sieged out, there's nothing I can do. I can't cross there because they control it, which is weird, because I feel like I've been in the opposite situation a couple of times before where I have sieged things and I can't cross, because my understanding of how strait crossings work is that they're only blocked if you, or if the enemy owns both sides. And I clearly, via my vassal, control one side, so you'd figure I'd be able to move through there. But then again, maybe because they're my vassal, I technically don't control both sides, so I don't get across. Then again, that would seem to imply that possibly Baristan would still be able to cross, so I don't really know what the whole deal with that is, but it is what it is. Or then again, maybe even the Fort Zone of Control has some effect over that. I don't know. The Fort Zone of Control rules are really weird sometimes. I mean, fortunately there is a Fort Zone of Control map mode, so you can at least see what should be happening, so you can know for sure if the AI is cheating based on whether or not they're doing something that the map mode says they shouldn't be. Also, we're going to end up playing a game of Ring Around the Rosie here as we try to, or Whack-A-Mole even, depending on how you want to look at it, as we just basically run around here, around the old Persian Gulf, trying to take down some enemies, because they both can easily retreat in a fashion that prevents me from following them, which is rather unfortunate, but it is what it is. And also, basically. This war, and the fact that it takes so long to win, compared to what I feel it should, basically boils down to poor strategic planning on my part. I have created a situation here where we can't get the war score necessary to win. Also, I noticed with some dismay that Poland is no longer a great power. That, in retrospect, looking back on this recording here, that is a bit of a scary thought. Though it's also kind of a scary thought now that I think about it, that we're so heavily reliant on hordes as our allies, since we have both Kazan and the Oirat. At least I'm pretty sure we have Kazan at this point. And the big problem with that is, of course, the AI is generally not as good about managing horde unity, which means... Oh, Kazan is working towards reforming, since they have taken admin ideas, if I recall correctly, so they're going to try to reform, which is a good thing. And once they reform, then we won't have to worry about them having horde-related problems, which will make life easier for us. We're also seeing at this point why my poor planning has resulted in this war taking a bit longer. But we're going to be wrapping things up at about this point, and the general idea from here is we're just going to try to siege out the rest of Hassa, and then move through Najd into Oman, which will allow us to take the land we need in order to form that sort of secure crossing over around the Straits of Hormuz here, which will save us future headaches. At least that's my hope. Anyway, I figure that's going to do it for now, so until the next time, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video.